Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nitya Ramachandra from the NR Sports Show. This is episode 1031. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, on all the podcast platforms. And today we are joined by a really special guest, but happy Wednesday, happy hump day. We are joined by Isabella Radovan. She's a talented, inspiring sports reporter, and she's big in the pageant world. She was first runner-up in the Miss Texas USA, which is amazing. And man, what a talented young lady here, and obviously amazing story. I can't wait to get to hear more about her story. And fans, please tune in. Obviously, you know about our speaker app. You can ask questions to Isabella today. Fan interaction is always good on the show. But first, Isabella, thank you for joining the show. It's truly an honor. And I know we've been discussing this for a while. My team's been reaching out to you, and we finally made this happen. And obviously, you're a busy person, but how are you and your family doing today?
Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on the show. I know we've been trying to do this for so long and my schedule has been so crazy. So I apologize, but I'm here. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. You're worth the wait. So there you go.
Thank you.
So let's start off with your obviously your business in the pageant world. And when did you get interested in that, and like being in the pageant, and obviously being first runner up in the Miss Texas USA and the other events that you've been part of? So take us to that process and tell our fans about that.
Okay, yeah. So I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas. That's where I was born and raised. So growing up, pageants were always on the TV, the Miss USA pageant, and I just always watched it when I was little with my mom and grandparents, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I saw the women, not only were they really beautiful, but they were giving back to the community, and I loved that. They were just like a full package. So I didn't really get started into it until I was graduating college. So I went to Texas A&M University in College Station, for all my Aggies out there. And my parents are like, you cannot go compete until you finish college. So in pageant land, especially in Texas, a lot of girls start as teenagers. So they start doing like the Miss Texas teen pageant. But at this time, I'm like 21. I think I didn't start competing till probably 22. So I started technically a lot later than most girls. So I knew I had a lot of ground to catch up on, which meant I had to really put in a ton of work to catch up to get where all the other girls were with all the years of experience of competing. So that's when I started. I did Miss San Antonio USA and I got second runner up. And I don't know, I guess I just thought I was going to win that. I had no experience. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm done with this. This is not for me. I don't think I want to do this anymore. And at the time I was working for a designer, and this girl came in and was going to compete. So she said, hey, are you going to go and compete? I'm getting ready. And I was like, no, I'm not. But I'm super competitive. So when I left that day, I kept thinking, well, maybe I'll go back and like really dedicate the next 4 months to like preparing for this correctly. And I'll go back and see what happens. So I go back to compete and I end up winning Best in Swimsuit, Miss Photogenic, and the whole pageant, Miss San Antonio USA. So then from there, I go to Miss South Texas. I start winning prelims, go to Miss Texas, and win back-to-back Best in Swimsuit. Which hasn't happened before, which was really cool for me to win that because I sacrificed so much time to just prepare for that. And then, I got first runner up, and now I'm out of the pageant world. I was working in sports during the time while I was doing that too, but now I'm out of the pageant world. I do help girls now just with their walk. Since I won Best in Swimsuit, they'll come to me and just kind of help, ask for my advice. I teach them how to walk. And so I'm still kind of involved, just a little bit though.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what's it like for you? Obviously, having two things at the same time, but being a coach now in the pageant world and seeing these young girls trying to be what you want to be. You were being as a pageant, but what's it like coaching these young girls now?
Oh, it's so fulfilling. I actually never thought I was going to get into this and be able to be back in pageant land at all once I was done. I kind of figured like I'm done forever. I'm not going to go back. Closing that chapter. But my interview coach, who actually got me ready for Miss Texas one day during COVID in March of 2020, I guess, he started sending me clients, or 2021. He started sending me clients and was like, hey, do you want to go and coach them like how to walk? Because that's like your specialty. And I was like, no, like I don't coach. Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't know how to do that. And so then I was like, okay, well, he kept sending me girls. And I was like, okay, like I'm just going to figure this out and just kind of do what I did for myself and just teach them how to do it, like the same blueprint. So I love it. It's so fulfilling. I never thought I would be so fulfilled by helping them out. I love seeing them progress and become better just overall as women. And I love seeing it. The last two girls that won Miss Texas USA, I was able to work with and help them. So, I mean, it's been really cool. It's like a full circle moment.
Yeah, so we are live with sports reporter Isabella Radovan. We already have a fan question for you. Someone asked a question. Someone wants to know, one of our fans want to know, how do you balance out your schedule with being a sports reporter and being a pageant coach?
It's hard. I don't sleep a lot, and I'm really big on, I take a calendar like everywhere I go. I just got one from Target, and it's just like one of the big ones. I have to write everything down just because I'm visual and I need to see everything. But I really try to plan everything out like 2 weeks out. I just try to get really detail oriented with everything. And I could sleep more. I do. I'm cutting back on the caffeine, but a lot of it's just like time management and
Yeah.
knowing what's like the most important and how to like divvy up the time. Like if I'm taking clients, I put them on, only try to do it like 2 days a week. But my job comes first, and anything I have to cover, I just make sure that I have enough time to prep for that and prepare for those games and events that I have to cover.
Hmm. Yeah. So who are some of the talented sports reporters out there in the women's side? Obviously, women in sports is growing big time, and still needs room to grow, but we're seeing big progress there. But who are some of the reporters that you looked up to?
Well, definitely Laura Oakman. I joined her galvanized group, her camp for the Atlanta Falcons, probably, my gosh, 3 years ago, 4. I think it was right before COVID. She's so inspirational in what she's doing with all these young women. It's phenomenal, and she's a gem. I love her. I love watching Ashley Brewer on
Yeah.
TV. Molly Kiram. I mean, those are probably like my top favorites. Erin Andrews is always like, she's a favorite for everybody. You know what I mean? And Carissa Thompson, they've kind of paved the way. But I love being able to see more women in
Mhm.
sports. It's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, we had Laura Oakman on our show last week, and it was an honor talking to her. She's really, I called her the GOAT of women in sports, and she's amazing. And when she told us about her galvanized program, it's really, truly amazing what she's doing with you guys,
Yeah,
helping you
she's
guys out in the
phenomenal.
career.
Like spending her time with us, and she's so busy and carving out the time to really help us become just better sports reporters, better women. I've made so many great friendships from that camp too. So I was really grateful that I got to attend that one.
Yeah. So, so in high school before going to Texas A&M, what were the main things that you learned as a journalist? And did you get to cover any high school games while you were there? And obviously, you must have covered you must have covered Texas A&M sports also.
So now I do, but in high school, I at the time I really wasn't sure yet what I wanted to do. I always loved sports and fashion. I was kind of always torn. It actually really started when I won Miss San Antonio. I
Okay.
threw out the first pitch at a baseball game and at the missions game. And I stayed in contact with the PR and marketing person, and that's actually kind of how doors started opening for me. At A&M, I studied more like business marketing, because I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'll study something really broad and then just get a lot of experience through connections and internships. I interned at KBTX
Mhm.
in College Station, and it was a news station. At the time, they didn't have a sports internship open, but I was like, okay, fine. Like news is, not my number one pick, but I'm going to do it just to help me with editing and just kind of see how everything, flows here at the news station. So I did that. I learned a lot. And from there, when I met the guy who did all the PR and marketing for the missions, I told him, hey, like I love sports, I'm trying to get into it. If you have any positions open, like let me know. And they had an in-game host position open, so that's where I started with them. And then I ended up going to the Spurs, which was funny because at the time, the person I contacted at Spurs was like, you don't have enough experience, so
Oh,
like we can't hire you.
oh.
And I was like, okay, well, I am going to get all the experience I can. And I was very persistent. Unfortunately, I probably emailed him every day for like 2 years. I didn't stop, but I got it. So um, persistence is key. Connections, networking. Something I took away from Laura Oakman's camp is she said, I think it was like on every Tuesday, she always went through her list, like just in her phone and like following up with contacts in the business, not as a, hey, I want a job, just more as, how are you doing? How's your family? Or like on Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. Just making sure you nurture those relationships, not that you want something from it, just to stay in contact. And I made so many great connections I'm so grateful for. And that's really what it is, getting to know people and coming from a place of like listening and really trying to know who they are, and you build that friendship, and then you just kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's what we did with you, persistence. So
Yes, persistence is key.
yeah, so we have another fan question for you. They wanted to ask you about the Spurs decision to trade Dejounte Murray to the Hawks. What was your thoughts on that? One of our fans want to know.
So we kind of had a feeling this was coming. We knew this was kind of in the works. I think for fans, they were definitely shocked. I'm on a show here in San Antonio, Sports Weekly, with a few guys. We debate and talk sports.
Yeah,
So actually, the week before that came out, we kind of discussed that, knowing that this most likely would happen. He'd get traded. I mean, Spurs are in a rebuild mode, and they're like, let's trade him, and we're going to start pretty much from scratch and with a younger group, and they're not going to waste his time in a rebuild mode. I think is nice. It's very respectful. Um, it's just going to be shocking for Spurs fans. Most Spurs fans are not used to not doing well. We've had, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. We've been very spoiled if you're a Spurs fan. So to go from that to like starting from ground zero, most Spurs fans don't know what that's like. They've never
yeah,
seen that. So it's very foreign territory. So it's hard to know what to expect, but we know we're going into a rebuild mode. I think looking forward, it's the right move. I think, he's an all-star. I wouldn't say he's a superstar. I
mhm,
think we need more somebody like John Morant on the team, and not just
yeah.
trading, going through draft picks, and just, being patient, which we don't like to be. No one likes to be that patient, but that's what it's going to take.
Well, yeah. So for you, tell our fans what's it like covering Texas A&M sports and being part of it as a student there. Obviously, great program, great college football program, basketball. Every sport is good there. And what's it been like for you? And what were the key factors that made you choose that college?
So yeah, I went to Texas A&M. My dad actually went there. So growing up, he was like, "You're gonna go to A&M," and I was like, "No, I'm never going there. I don't want to go there." I was just being stubborn, like, "Don't tell me what to do. I'm not doing it." So I always said I was never gonna go there. So that's why you should never say never. I went to go tour it with him, and I fell in love with it. I love the alumni program. I mean, I'm wearing my Aggie ring, but I
Mhm.
get stopped everywhere. Like I'll be in an elevator, and someone's like, "Oh, did you go to A&M?" And I love that networking piece, just being able to connect
Yeah.
with so many people. Like we're all bonded by the ring. So I loved that aspect. That's also why I chose it. I was there when Johnny Manziel was there.
Mm.
So it was a great time for college football. It was so electrifying and I loved it. So now that I get to go to the games and cover them and be on Kyle Field, it's so surreal. I mean, I don't know if I think in my head I thought one day like I'll be down here, but then once you're there, like Kyle Field, if you've never been, you should go. It's very electrifying. Like there's something you can't really explain about the environment there, but it's so special. Even if you're not an A&M fan, I just recommend going. The stadium's incredible. The vibe's so surreal. So now being able to be on Kyle Field, it's very dreamy. It's a dream come true. It's so cool. I can't even explain it.
Did you at least get to enjoy the nightlife there, like the
I
party?
did, yeah, Northgate. It's fun. It's a college town. Like it's a fun place to go.
Yeah.
Everyone's so nice in College Station. That's what I love about it. Everyone's so open and friendly. But yeah, Northgate's great. But like they're always changing, adding new bars. And
Mhm.
one of my friends was there recently, and they were just telling me different bars that opened. I'm like, I've never even heard of that. It's just growing so fast.
Wow. Yeah. So speaking of Texas, obviously you were there with Johnny Manziel, and can you tell our fans, did you get to interview him when you were there? And can you talk about, did you think that he could have been from your time at Texas A&M? When did you realize he could get into the NFL? But were you surprised how it turned out for him?
I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed. He's a partier, and that's his lifestyle. He likes to go out and live his life, and that is unfortunate because I think that really cost him his whole career. And I think he would have had a great career. At A&M, we saw, obviously, he's a lot smaller. I'm 5'11 and a half. I think he's like 5'10. I mean, I've been around him and he was pretty small, for a quarterback in the NFL. We see a lot now, we're seeing a lot more quarterbacks that are smaller, but especially then that was pretty much unheard of. But he's great rushing. So we knew with that aspect he'd be okay. But going to NFL, it was like, not only is he small, it's like, is that dedication there and that consistency? And he just liked to party. I think now it's just disappointing because I think, especially as an A&M fan, you wanted to see what he was going to do in the NFL. He could have done so many incredible things. I just think that one piece of partying was just kind of the one that did him in.
Did you get to interview him or no?
I didn't because at the time when I was at A&M, I wasn't working in
Oh, okay.
sports. They have 12th man productions, but at the time I wasn't doing that. I had my internship in news. So I wasn't really doing a lot of sports at A&M. I'm really like, I kind of regret that, I guess. But at the time, like when doors open, I just take them, and it all kind of worked out fine. But at the time, I wasn't.
Yeah, so we have another fan question here. Someone wants to know what would you say your most memorable interview you have done so far?
Ooh, that's good. I don't know which one's my most memorable, but one that I had a lot of fun on was with Bruce Bowen. We did like a Christmas this or that, and I got to interview him, like what he was up to. But we also did like a fun segment with it, with like what your favorite thing is about the Christmas time. So that was fun. He is hilarious. Like he's a blast. So that was so much fun for me.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, and Nick Saban. I got to talk to Nick Saban and
Oh,
ask him a few questions. And I'm a big Nick Saban fan, but now that he said the stuff with Jimbo, I don't know. I have a hard time with it. Most people that know me know I'm obsessed with Nick Saban. When I
mhm.
was at Miss Texas USA, on my top 5 question, they said, if you could have a Snapchat takeover with anybody, who would it be? And I was like, Nick Saban. I love his work ethic. People are going to cringe when I say this, but I love his work ethic. I love that consistency, always wanting, to dominate, be as perfect as you can, and that striving for greatness. And that's what I love. But now I'm a little upset with him because of the Jimbo thing, but
Wow.
you know,
Yeah,
it'll,
yeah, that situation is kind of crazy, and I don't know what's gonna happen there, but yeah, but so I want to tell our fans, obviously, what for you while you were part of Galvanize, what was the things that you learned from Laura Oakman, and obviously and connecting with other women in that program?
yeah, it was so great to be able to network and meet so many other young women just in the sports field that I loved, because it's hard to find other women that you can connect on certain things with. As you get older, you're not the settings in life, you're different. It's hard to make friends sometimes, right? You're put in different situations, or you're moving a lot for work. So that was really cool to be able to connect with so many women. I think some of the things I learned, like I said, about that Tuesday connection, like
Yeah.
Laura Oakman talked about, that I love being able to keep in contact with your connections. And then I don't know how, I'm trying to think how to describe it. She talks about basically getting into the zone of where you feel really good before you go out and do like a hit or a sideline hit. And that's what I do to this day, like find that place where I felt like my best and tap into what that feels like, and then go and execute what I need to do. And especially with sideline reporting, that's what I do. I mean, it's, sometimes you have adrenaline and you kind of have to work through that and just make sure you feel really confident with what you're saying. So that was a big key that she talked about that I do now all the time.
Hmm. Yeah. So what's a one? It could be from anyone that you connected with or networked with or learned from. What's that one piece of advice you got in your career so far that helped you got to this point? So as a sports reporter.
I would say probably just always say yes to opportunities.
Yeah.
Like even if you think, oh, that's not on path of where I'm trying to go, just do it. Just say yes. When things come to you and doors open, don't question it and just take it. I mean, obviously, as long as it's not like a bad door, but you know what I mean? In theory, pretty much when you have those opportunities, like for me in college, it wasn't ideal. Like I didn't want a news internship, but I knew that I needed stuff to start putting on my resume, to start kind of like grinding and getting experience. So I took it, and I did learn a lot from it. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity. But like for that example, that wasn't my dream internship at the time. I wanted the sports department, but it just wasn't open. But you learn so much through each, experience you go through, and connect with everybody. Always be kind to people, always connect with them. I mean, that was my biggest thing I took, was just, putting yourself in situations, even if you feel uncomfortable, just go up to people, start talking to them. You kind of, you feel like it's awkward at first, but then once you do it, you start kind of getting used to that. If you're not used to it, it's uncomfortable. The more you start opening up to others and really just trying to network, it becomes easier, and it's so helpful too, just in life.
Yeah. So when we looked at your story, we found something interesting, and you got your first job at 16 at a boutique company, and then going from there, you worked with a few retail companies. So take us to that process, being at the age of 16 and getting your first job at a boutique thing.
Yeah, so I always wanted to work. I'm obsessed with working. My friends know, like, I'd much rather go work and do like work related things than anything. But I wanted to make extra money, and I wanted clothes and fun stuff. So I started working really young, but that was such a great experience for me. Just being able to work with designers in different, stores and managing teams. It taught me a lot about myself. And, now I'm able to use it, especially in sports, being very detail oriented. And also just teamwork and leadership. That's a lot what I learned throughout those days. And I'm able to apply that now where I'm at in sports. And I have my own online clothing store now, which I started during COVID in 2020. Sports were down, obviously, and my work, everything kind of shut down. So I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I always wanted to do a store, I just didn't have the time. So I started it in 2020. A lot of the clothes are also kind of geared for women in sports just because it's so hard to find workwear. So that's when I started. And now like sports came back and I applied back to my job and got that. So now I'm like doing both.
Wow. Yeah, so we have a couple here fan questions that just came in. One of our fans wanted to know if you weren't a sports reporter or being a pageant, what would you be doing now? And another question is, do you have any funny bloopers?
Okay, so the first one, if I wasn't working in sports, which I love so much, I can't even fathom that, but just be working full time on my online store. I have to balance that out now because I used to do it full time during COVID, but now sports are back. So I have to balance that out a little bit more. So I would be doing that. It's called Sage, SAYGE on Instagram. It's at Shop Sage. And bloopers. I mean, I do. I feel like I have bloopers, but they're not online. Probably stuck on my desktop somewhere. But yeah, I mean, of course.
Yeah, so well, so obviously, with speaking of sports being back, obviously, 2020 has been a rough year for us. Obviously, we're into 2022, and everybody in our industry, we had to adapt to Zooms and working from home and doing and adjusting to a new life. But for you as a person and what did you learn from the 2020 year when we had everything was shut down? We didn't know what was going to happen with our futures and all these players' futures. But what did you learn from that year to now?
I think it really taught me to just slow down, which probably now I'm back to that speed, like trying to get back to the grind. It's kind of been hard because you go from 0 to 100.
Mhm.
We went from 100 to 0, not
Yeah.
doing anything. So I think I really was able to sit back and reflect and just figure out what's really important in life, like family and friends. And sometimes overworking ourselves is not the best, right? I mean, I love work, but I have to be able to balance that out with also having a life. So I was able to just slow down and reflect a little bit more. And I just think probably patience too. I mean, we were so eager to get back and we had no control over it. It was just like having to be patient or go with the flow and just try to make the most of the time we had at home, and just be as productive as possible.
Hmm. So we have another fan question here. Someone wants to know, what are your thoughts on Becky Hammon so far as a head coach for Las Vegas?
Oh, she's killing it, which we all knew that she would. She's incredible. I'm sad that she's gone. I'm hopeful that one day she comes back.
Mhm.
I'm so happy though that she had the opportunity to go there. She's phenomenal. I can't wait to see her hopefully one day in the NBA as the first female head coach. I mean, honestly, I just no words for her because she's so unbelievable. And I just hope that she becomes the first one. I would love to see that.
Oh. Who all right, just with the people you work with, who is the funniest one that you work with right now?
Funniest one I work with. Well, I'm always around so many different people at different events too. So there's some like I love the camera guys. Like they always crack me up. Like there's certain so we went to a George Gervin event like a week ago at the Spurs facility, and there's one camera guy in particular. I just cracks me up. He works at locally in San Antonio. It's always like the camera guys. I always find it hilarious. They always have really good jokes. So I can't like pinpoint one, but it's always one of them.
Yeah, so what's it been like for you just to go back into the studios now and work from there and being back with your coworkers and talking sports in person now finally? So what's that been like for you?
Oh, I love it. But it's been kind of hard. Like I said, we went from doing nothing and
Yeah.
now we have to go all the way back. I mean, I think I'm finally like back in that groove because right before COVID hit, I was grinding so hard. It was crazy. And so then to go to stopping, I was like, okay, well, can't do anything. That was weird and hard. And then now it's like going all the way back to 100. So it's been a process, but I finally feel like I'm getting close to being back to that, that mode I was in before COVID. But it's nice. It's great to be able to like have some sense of normalcy again. And especially right at the end of Spurs season last season, it was nice. The masks weren't, we could breathe again, like everything wasn't so like COVID heavy protecting, and it was just a little bit more relaxed, which was nice, just more normal again. I think that's what we all kind of were wanting.
Hmm. Another fan question here. One of our fans want to know, what's they want to know if you, what's your dream interview? They want to know who would you like to interview next?
I've been able to like talk to a lot of people. Probably just like a longer sit down with Nick Saban or Jimbo. Cause I mean, in the pressers, I always get to talk to them and ask them questions, which is great. But I think maybe more time. That would be awesome. Like a good sit down.
Hmm. Yeah, so obviously with the college football coming back pretty soon here, and obviously NFL coming back, and so I'm sure you guys are going to be busy now. I'm going to be busy with all this too. But what's it like now seeing the growth of Texas A&M and obviously you have their Cowboys and Texans or whatever. So what do you like about the growth of the football in Texas, in San
Oh, I
Antonio
love it.
area?
I mean, especially Texas, like we started high school football, and high school football here in Texas is everything. It's
Mhm.
on every channel on Friday, Saturday nights. I do sideline with that too in the fall, but in Texas, it's huge. High school football, I mean, to other people in other states, they're like, what? Like,
Mhm.
that is prime time. So many viewers are tuning into that. That's where it starts in Texas, is high school football. And then you just see it progress through college and the NFL. But especially at A&M, Jimbo Fisher has been the perfect addition for that school and that program. And I really can't fathom seeing any other coach in that role, but he's been phenomenal for the team. And I think it's great. I'm excited for next season. They had the top recruiting class. I'm very excited to see what they do this season. And just in general, be fun to see what happens with the Cowboys. And,
Mhm.
they're starting camp soon in Oxnard. And the Texans without Deshaun will be interesting. I still think they'll probably be in
Yeah.
more of a rebuilding mode, but it'll be interesting to see, especially the Cowboys. We talk a lot about that on the show that I'm on, Sports Weekly, which is the topic tomorrow, just how we think, how we think the Cowboys are going to do this season. So a lot of up in the air, but we'll see.
I'm a big Cowboy fan in Jersey, so
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
wow. Maybe you shouldn't say that. The Cowboys fans.
my
My
my father brought me as a Cowboy fan because he went to boarding school in Arkansas and he was in Jerry Jones's world. So he grew up watching Texas football and Cowboys. So my father forced me to become a Cowboy fan. So
Who's your favorite Cowboys player?
who, him or me?
No, your favorite.
Oh, my favorite, right? If I want to go, if you, even though I don't watch the 90 or 80s, but my favorite all-time Cowboy is Larry Allen. And
Oh,
then
nice.
after that will be Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and then Troy Aikman. And then if you want to go current, my favorite current player right now is obviously you got to say Tyron Smith. He's been there the longest, and the offensive lineman. And my favorite player already is Micah Parsons. This guy's a
I
beast,
know.
and,
He's
and
so
they
fun to watch.
they hit a home run with that pick, and I feel like he's going to be a star for the next uh 8 to 10 years, in my opinion. So
Yeah, he has that superstar, just that vibe about him. He's so much fun to watch. I mean, I want to watch Cowboys games really because of him. He's awesome.
yeah, no, Dak Prescott. Speaking of, obviously, you're going to talk about Cowboys a lot now. So, what are your thoughts on them? Obviously the pressures? They keep saying the pressures on Dak Prescott, which I agree. I think Dak Prescott has to have a big year for us to succeed and go far. And I feel like Mike McCarthy is on the hot. I don't like saying this, but Mike McCarthy is on the hot seat, in my opinion, this year.
Oh, 100% I agree. I think all the pressure is actually on him more so than Dak because he's so replaceable and they have other options that they can go with. I mean, and you could say a lot of the games that at the end of last season were cost more on Mike McCarthy than Dak with time management and different calls and whatnot and penalties. But I think overall, this team, I personally think it will probably be about the same type of season as last season. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll see. There's new rookies in place, and that just takes time to build the chemistry. So, I mean, right now I'm putting them kind of where they were last year.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, so we have another fan question for you. They want to know your routine when you go cover a big event, and obviously players have their own routines. So what is your routine as a reporter going into a big event for coverage?
Like for sidelining
Mhm.
or for if
No,
I'm just
sidelining. They want to,
okay.
yeah, for sidelining, yeah.
So Like, for example, if I have a game on Saturday, I have coaches calls during the week. So it depends on what days the coaches are available. So it's never set days, but I try to ask as many in-depth questions during those coaches calls and ask really thorough questions. So I'm able to refer back to those on game days. But I take no caffeine that morning. I go over my notes in the morning, not too heavily, just enough where I feel like I have good points to talk about. And then I try to just kind of relax and not do too much. I try to get a workout in the morning really early if I can. Fasted cardio is my favorite. The Stairmaster is what I do every day. So I'll do a little workout, go over my notes, and then I'll head to the arena. But I try to not have a lot of caffeine. I have enough adrenaline that runs through me to where I don't need it. This is what I've realized. If I'm doing busy work, I love caffeine. But if I need to speak and I'm on TV, I try to limit it because I have enough adrenaline to get me through. I don't need anything extra. And I just feel too much caffeine just like gets me wired and I'm not centered and in a good place.
Wow. So one of our fans want to know if when you're not working, when you're not busy working, what do you like to do for fun?
I'm a big dinner girl. I love going to dinners with just friends and catching up. Working out is something I love, like taking different classes, doing Pilates, weightlifting. I love to do some shopping. Really dinners. I'm really big on just catching up with my friends too when I can. So dinners are normally kind of that time I'm able to do that and travel when I can.
I'm liking this fan interaction. We're getting a lot of questions for you today with the fans. It's amazing. Yeah, so I want to ask you about, obviously, for you, what's it like? Obviously, as a reporter, the one thing I love about this job, I'm sure you're going to say the same thing, but the one thing I love is learning when I do in-person I love doing in-person interviews because I feel like you get to learn the players' personality on the field and off the field, about their families and what they've been through, and you get a lot of them from in person. But well, what's that been like for you, just to get to learn these players or coaches' personalities?
It's so much fun. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to work in sports. You know, as we know, there's not a lot of positions that are always open, and so many people want to work in that. So I never take it for granted. It's such a blessing that I get to do this, and being able to meet them, it's great. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just people like all of us, but they have stories, and that's what we love to do as journalists, being able to get to know them and be able to put them in a position to where they can tell their story and we can share it with others. So it's always a privilege being able to be in that environment around people like that who are so dedicated to a craft and focused. That's what I love. I love being around people who are dedicated and consistent. And, you know, that's the people I like to surround myself with personally, just go-getters. So it's fun to be able to work in that environment 24/7.
So have you had any instance where, for example, when you got to interview like players or and the next day or whatever, they get drafted to a team, or have you had instances where you've been a part of their lives where you interviewed them and then eventually they got to the next goal?
Yes, I have, but mainly it's been more so with like players getting traded.
Oh,
That's what I've been
traded.
around
Okay.
more. Yeah, just like especially with NBA, just interviewing guys or they're on the team and then they get traded the next day. Like
Hmm.
DeJounte. Like we went
Yeah.
in to the facility probably the next day after he got traded. So that was kind of weird, when stuff like that happens. It's a business at the end of the day. But when you have interviewed players and you're used to them being there and then they leave one day, you're
Yeah.
like, that's weird. You got to adjust to like a whole new group. It's like your friends are leaving, but it's a business. So you
Yeah.
just got to keep rolling with it.
Yeah. So we have another fan question. Someone wants to know about Keldon Johnson. What are your thoughts on Keldon Johnson's growth? Obviously, just on a big extension. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on him, his growth, and do you think they will eventually build around him?
I do think they're going to rebuild around him, especially with this new deal. And I think it's completely valid to do that. I think he's a great player. His work ethic is great. He's, put on more mass. He's definitely like he's worked out really hard getting his body in shape for the season. You can see the progression, and just him as a player is a great work ethic. He really does fit the Spurs mold and mentality of who he is. So I think rebuilding around him is a perfect choice.
Can you talk about the Spurs fan base, because they have one of the best fan bases in my opinion? No matter what, every game is sold out. No matter if they're losing or winning the record, they still show up for their team. And obviously Greg Popovich, Hall of Fame coach, heck of a coach, a great career. So for you, what's it like being part of that history and seeing the fans come in every night or day or whatever selling out the stadium every night for you guys. It's amazing.
Spurs fans are like no other. If you like going to the training facility, I go a lot just to cover practices during the season. I'm there a few times a week, whenever practice is. But there are fans that just wait outside that training facility like the entire afternoon. Right now in San Antonio, it's probably 104, 105 outside, but they don't care. They will sit there even on days when I know during summer league, obviously when they were in summer league, not a lot of people were there. They're still outside waiting. I mean, the fans are obsessed with the Spurs, and it's great. You want to have that fan base. It's the city of San Antonio loves the Spurs. They're ride or die, whether they're winning or losing, rebuilding, they're still there, supporting the fans, supporting the team. But being a part of it is so awesome. I mean, growing up, I'm from San Antonio. So, growing up, going to Spurs games. And I remember one game I went with my dad. It was probably 11. But I saw someone down on the court, I think it was a reporter. And I was like, one day I'm going to be down there. I'm going to be there on that court doing that. And so now it's really cool to be able to be doing that. When I look back, I think, wow, I did it. I'm here. And it's really cool. It's surreal. I love being around Coach Pop and I'm glad I get to cover the team, especially that he's, still here with the Spurs. I hope he doesn't leave for a while. I don't think he will, but that is really awesome. I mean, he's incredible. Just who he is as a person, but as a coach too. So that's really awesome. And he always challenges you to ask questions. I literally will think for the whole game, what questions am I asking Pop at the end of the game? Because they have to be thorough. They have to be great. You can't just mail it in and ask something because you could get called out. But yeah, so he's always challenging me. So that's great too.
Wow. Yeah, that was, speaking of Greg Popovich, one of our fans want to know, when you're in that room with him, trying to come up with great questions, what's that like? I mean, does he give you one word answer like Bill Belichick, or is he kind of different when it comes to Bill Belichick?
Oh no, Pop will give you a one word. He'll be like, next. Yeah. I mean, luckily for me, I've had good experiences with him. After the game and even at the facility, he's always been very nice to me. But yeah, I mean, he's been great to me. I've seen other reporters ask questions where it was a little not as nice, but he challenges me, and I challenge myself always too to make sure I'm asking really good questions. I never want to leave that room and feel like, oh, I should have asked that. I could have done better. I'm just hard on myself. So I always expect myself to do the most and do the best of my ability. So that is one thing I love. He challenges the reporters in the room.
Okay, so a lot of people, I'm going to bring you up this player that everybody forgets that used to be on the Spurs. I mean, obviously, you got Tony Parker, Dave Robinson, Manu Ginobili, obviously Tim Duncan. There's a player that I keep telling people, do you remember this player that you say they always forget? Matt Bonner is a forgetting player that used to play for the Spurs. I never forgot his career. He had a great career. And I mean, obviously, you had all those stars, but talk about Matt Bonner, because everybody, for some reason, forgets about him.
Yeah, I know everyone forgets about him, but now he's at the games and he covers games too. So that's kind of fun being able to see him. But he's so nice, so personable at every single game. But yeah, he had a great career. I don't know why people seem to forget about him. The Red Rocket. I don't know. People forget about him, and he's at every game now, covering games too. So it's kind of cool to see him in that position, in that role. But I don't know. I think he was great for the Spurs at the time. He played a significant role for the team. But I'm not sure why everyone forgets about him. Did you really like him as
I used to watch him a lot obviously I'm from Jersey, so I watch the Knicks and Nets all the time. So when the Spurs came to New York or New Jersey at that time of his career, the Nets were in New Jersey still when he was still playing, obviously. So when they came down, I used to watch games on TV. This guy used to light up with the threes and rebound, and this kid could play. I mean, I was like, who is this? I was like, man, this guy could play. And I said, from that point, I never forgot about him. And when I asked my friends, do you remember that player? They said no. Like, come on, like you can't forget players like that.
I think it's because he wasn't as flashy, and that's also Spurs players in general are a little bit less flashy. They're more about that team environment, just more instead of all about me, it's about we. And that's just kind of the Spurs way. But I think Matt Bonner fit that role so well. He was not overly flashy. He wasn't obsessed with himself, or it wasn't all about him. He just really played his role with the team. So I think that's also why too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of our fans want to know, when it comes to football season for you, especially college and NFL coming back, how do you balance that out, covering college and NFL?
It's hard. It's like I have to constantly be watching. I mean, I watch ESPN just in general 24/7. When I go to bed, it's on. When I wake up, it's on. It's on all the time, which does help me just to be able to take in so much information all the time because I'm dealing with so many teams, so many players. I try to not make it so complicated for myself and just get like giant nuggets that I need to kind of build off of. But I just think it's a matter of finding the time to study and just making sure you're getting all that knowledge in.
Hmm. So let me ask you this: once Patty Mills, obviously you guys all miss Patty Mills there. I've seen the reactions there already, but once Patty Mills opted out of the Brooklyn Nets contract, was there any interest from the Spurs trying to bring him back or no? Before he
I
went
don't
back.
know that personally. If there's any interest, I think all Spurs fans hope he comes back. I would love to see him come back.
No, no,
It
but
would,
no, he already signed a new deal with the
yeah,
Brooklyn Nets. But when he
no, yeah,
opted out,
that's it.
was the Spurs interested bringing him back at that time before he resigned?
That I don't know about if they were. I mean, right. I mean, I would say I'm thinking that they weren't, but I can't speak on that just because I haven't talked to anyone about that specifically within the team. But I mean, I think all Spurs fans in general would love to see him back. I mean, he's not coming back, but that would be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, we all miss him. He was great for the community. He played a huge role in that too, not just like on and off the court. I mean, he was such a key piece, but they're rebuilding now. So,
Yeah.
as much as Spurs fans want to see him come back, I just think that obviously the chapter has been closed. I don't think that will ever happen. It would be nice, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're definitely in a rebuild mode for sure.
I can talk Spurs with you all day. I mean, but
I know.
but what are your what are your thoughts on this obviously crazy NBA offseason, and the Spurs are being linked to a few players right now in Russell Westbrook. They're trying to maybe help out a team trying to get rid of Westbrook, and the Spurs have been linked to a lot of players this offseason. But what are your thoughts? And obviously Brooklyn, everybody's watching Brooklyn right now to see what they're going to do with their two stars.
I know. I'm so interested to see where KD's gonna go. I mean, I don't know. I think actually it would be a good trade if he went to Pelicans.
Mhm.
To link up with Zion. I think that would be cool. I don't think that Phoenix Suns trade's going to go over well now that they have DeAndre Ayton re-signed. I just don't see that's going to work. I mean that's the thing. It's like where does KD go? Like what
Mhm.
are the options? I don't know. That'll be interesting to see. That's what I'm super excited about.
Everybody's saying the Warriors, 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 but I don't want to see that happen again.
I don't either. And I don't like it's like, well, then why did he do everything he did
Yeah.
then? What's the point? Like, I want to see him on his own and I want to see him win a championship without like other key players. I mean, obviously they're key players, but not like a Steph Curry with them. Like, I want to see him alone and I want him to get that championship on his own, just him kind of running everything. But yeah, I mean, there's always so many trade talks going on, which that's what's so fun about the off season. Everyone's like kind of on edge, not knowing what's going to happen. But for Spurs, I mean, I don't see them getting like a big star like a Russell Westbrook. I think Russell Westbrook will probably end up staying, especially after they had that talk
Well,
with him.
yeah.
Yeah, they ended up meeting up and talking. It was kind of weird at Summer League. They were on the opposite
Yeah,
sides of.
somebody brought up a point where how come we can't talk from 94 feet or close by? They had to call on the phone.
Yeah, well, and they weren't sitting together at Summer League.
I don't know.
They were on the opposite side of the court, which is kind of weird. Like, wouldn't you just sit together? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things that were just kind of weird about that. And so then they met and talked. Then Russell Westbrook got rid of his longtime agent. That's kind of weird too. So there's a lot of things that are just very strange. I don't think Spurs will end up getting a big player like a Russell Westbrook or somebody like that. I really think they're in the rebuild mode. Um, I know Spurs fans want to see that happen. That'd be cool, but I don't know. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think they're fine just rebuilding with the rookies and the guys they have on the team and just using those draft picks.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot right now.
Okay.
Do you see? Uh, but when all right, do you see Katie and Kyrie staying with the Nets when the season starts, or do you see them gone at some point? Because I feel like the Nets are not getting any trade packages they like. So you see them keeping them for the beginning of the season.
I could see them staying because I don't know who else is going, like what other team's going to take them. I just don't. But I don't think if they stay, like obviously that whole connection's not okay
No,
with
no.
that team. Even if they were to stay together, I'm not saying, oh, they're going to come back and win it and he's going to stay. Eventually, Katie's leaving. I think when he makes up his mind, he's done. And I just think that's where he's at. I could see him honestly, maybe even being kind of stubborn with the situation, even if there's no teams that pick him up, him just saying like, well, I don't want to play until I get traded. I mean, that's just kind of, the culture too with NBA. Like a lot of players now are like, well, I'm just not going to play. We saw it with Anthony Davis in New Orleans, kind of like, well, I'm not playing until I can get out of here. So that could happen too. I could see them both staying though for the beginning of the season because no teams right now, there's no deals going on. And it's like, where do we put him? I don't think Miami's really in the running. Phoenix really isn't. I think New Orleans would be a great, you get rid of Brandon Ingram and send him to Brooklyn, and then they can get KD. But I mean, does he want to be in New Orleans? That's another factor. He has to be happy wherever he's at too.
How about the Memphis Grizzlies? That'd be nice with Ja Morant.
That would be really nice. I don't think they're going to do that though, but they have a great team. I'm excited to watch them. Ja Morant is just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's my dream interview right there, Ja Morant.
And he's cool, and he's very confident, has a cool vibe about him. I'm excited to watch them. I got to go to a few games, cover a lot of Spurs games this year when they played the Memphis Grizzlies. So it was fun watching him warm up. He just has fun, which is, it seems like it's so natural for him too. He's definitely a superstar.
Yeah, so we'll take one more fan question. Someone wants to know, what's the funniest moment you've been a part of?
The funniest moment, like in an interview or just
any in general?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. There's so many. It's always like coaches saying like funny things or actually, okay, last year at Spurs Media, I think it was when we had Derek White, but Derek was talking to us and Keldon's like a big jokester. And so Keldon went up to him and was like messing with him in the interviews. Keldon likes to do that. So it was funny because we were all just talking to Derek and he came up and just asked all these crazy, like just acting wild. So, I mean, it was just random. It's funny. Things like that catch you off guard, that happen a lot and always cracks me up.
How long do you think Greg Popovich will coach this team? Obviously they're in the rebuild mode, but do you think Greg Popovich is up for that? Greg Popovich?
I don't think he'll retire for a while. Like I would say 3 to 5 years he stays, and that's also really hopeful. But I think he really enjoys it. It's a great lifestyle. He's on the road. He's with these guys. He has all these young guys with this energy that are hungry and they want to learn. And I think he loves being around that. I mean, when you've been in the game for that long, and I'm sure, I mean, this is my opinion, but I'm sure at some point it gets maybe stagnant, or you're with these superstars that have been playing for so long, like maybe that hunger is not as excited to play anymore because they've been doing it for so long, but now with all these young guys, these young rookies, they're so eager to learn and do well and just be an overall great player that I think that energy is exciting to be around. So I think it'll keep Pop here for a few more years. I'm hopeful. I love him. So I hope he stays.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what goes on the rest of the NBA season. But before,
I don't even want to think about Pop leaving because, well, unless we get Becky Hammon, then that'd be cool. Trade off.
So before we get to the last two things, what's it been like for you just to share your story, your journey in your life, what you've been through with the pageant and having your own business, being a sports reporter, doing multiple things at once, on platforms like these, sharing your story on platforms like these? What's it been like for you?
Oh, well, I'm so grateful. Thank you for having me on the show. Like anytime I get to do something like that, it's so surreal for me and it's full circle and I never take it for granted. It's such a blessing and an awesome opportunity just to be able to talk to you and answer fan questions and being able to connect with others. That's what I love. I love being able to meet new people, connect, hear about them and their story too, as well as sharing mine. So I'm super grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the last two things here, our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. He's now coaching at Grambling State University, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, everybody stays safe. It's still horrible what we're seeing with that situation. So we'll send you the foundation so you can go check it out. And
yes, please do. I would love to.
Yeah, we're trying to stop that right away. So
yeah, I love that. It's a huge problem that we have, and honestly, I don't think it's talked about enough. It does not get enough coverage as it should. It's a huge problem, especially in Texas. The city of Houston is like one of the #1 places for human trafficking. It's disgusting. And yeah, please send me that. I would love to be able to contribute and help in any way I can to that.
Thank you. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now?
Yeah, thank you so much just for your just helping the community, helping everyone throughout, not only just the United States, wherever you're at, just in general, just being able to give your time and putting your health on the line, helping so many people with COVID. I know COVID cases are rising again. So it's just, just grateful. And I don't take it for granted ever. Just that they're putting their lives basically on the line to help others all the time. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So before we close this out, Isabella, where can our fans find you on social media? And would you like to plug anything? What's coming up next to our fans?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media. On Instagram, I'm super active. It's my first name, Isabella, Isabella _ My last name's Radovan, Radovan. You guys can follow me there. My Twitter is just at Radovan Isabella. So just reverse the two. And yeah, I'm active on both of those. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on Sports Weekly with a few guys in San Antonio area discussing Dallas Cowboys, NBA. So that'll be a blast. It comes on KCWX, which is Channel 4 in San Antonio at Saturday, 5 p.m. Next week, I'll be in Dallas covering Conference USA Media Day with all the teams like UTSA, Houston, or U of H, Rice, all of them. So they'll be there. I'm going to be covering that. A lot of things are coming up because we're getting closer to fall, which I love. It's crazy as it is. I love it because there's just always something going on, and I love to be busy. And then, yeah, if you're a woman in sports or just woman in general and you want cute clothes, you can go to @ShopSage. It's shop SAYGE.
So there you have it. That wraps up episode 1031 with talented, amazing sports reporter Isabella Radovan. She's also in the beauty business. She's a pageant coach. She was first runner up in Miss Texas USA. Man, she does it all. Amazing woman out there, and go check her out. Go follow her. Go, if you have any advice, go reach out to her. Any woman out there who's trying to get into this business, reach out to her. She's the best one to go to. And Isabella, thank you again for joining us today. It's truly an honor, and thank you to our fans who are tuning in, asking great questions to Isabella. We would love to have you back on the show at some point so you can meet the full team. But
Yeah,
keep up the great
good.
work. You're amazing. You bring that swag. So keep it up. There you go.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been truly an honor. Hopefully, you can come back in the fall. We'll talk
Oh
more
yeah,
sports then. It'll be
yeah.
super busy.
Anytime.
Thanks, everyone.